Good morning, Mr. Rosendall. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Mayor-elect Gray. It's good to see you here. Thank you for being here at this important hearing. And Committee Chairman Thomas, good to see you today. And Councilmember Michael Brown, thank you for being here. I am Rick Rosendall, Vice President for Political Affairs at the Gay and Lesbian Activists Alliance, founded in 1971. In May 1972, we persuaded the D.C. Board of Education to prohibit discrimination in the school system on the basis of sexual orientation. That put us in the forefront of the country on that particular issue. We urged the passage of comprehensive anti-bullying legislation in this council session to require D.C. public schools, D.C. public charter schools, the Department of Parks and Recreation, the Public Library, and the University of D.C. to develop policies to prevent student bullying and harassment. Last May, I was pleased to join Allison Gill of GLSEN at a meeting with DCPS officials on their anti-bullying efforts. As I noted then, the district has addressed bullying before. In an August 1999 letter to then School Superintendent Arlene Ackerman, my colleague Bob Summersgill, then GLAA's Vice President for Political Affairs, urged adoption of a comprehensive anti-harassment policy to include student-on-student sexual harassment. I'll skip over some of the history. Superintendent Ackerman responded to GLAA by issuing a directive on harassment and sexual harassment on March 29, 2000. Since then, there have been other efforts by other superintendents. Clearly, bullying and harassment are continuing, which brings us to the present legislation. As GLSEN emphasizes, an effective anti-harassment policy must include enumeration of types of bullying and harassment. The policy is toothless unless you spell them out. Procedures for reporting and investigating incidents, the option of anonymous reporting, provisions against retaliation and false accusations, a range of penalties for confirmed violations, publication and dissemination of the policy, and a training requirement for educators and students. These things are specified in Bill 18-1057. We agree with GLSEN that the bill should also enumerate ethnicity and cover students targeted for associating with others who have the enumerated characteristics, and should require each school and covered agency to publish an aggregate report of incidents as well as a breakdown of the specific types of bullying and harassment. There should be penalties for teachers who ignore bullying that they witness, and rewards for those who act to protect students. The bill should include the complete list of categories from the D.C. Human Rights Act. This has been a pet peeve of Bob and I for many years, so we repeat the same point. It is important to avoid approaches that would have the effect of punishing schools for reporting incidents of bullying. If anything, schools should be punished for not reporting such incidents. No one is helped by artificially low statistics that result from underreporting. And it is essential that individual school principals not be permitted to set their own de facto policies. Without effective implementation and enforcement, even a model policy is a paper tiger. Success requires clear and visible leadership, involvement of stakeholders, follow-through by school officials, and continued oversight by the council. We look forward to working with you to see that all of our young people are given the safe environment for learning that they deserve. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendall. I appreciate the testimony of all of you, and I think the last paragraph of your testimony really says, it really frames it, and that is, we can develop all the policies in the world. That's fine, but without effective training and enforcement, it is just a total waste of time. I wonder if any of you, and this is one question I want to ask, if any of you can cite instances around the country where not only has there been an effective contemporary model policy developed, but where implementation has been consistent with what the policy spoke to in the first place.
I'm not familiar with my understanding is that there are relatively few jurisdictions that are explicit. There's a lot of policies in place, but there are not a lot of comprehensive policies, and that has been the problem. Many of the adults present, such as the teachers, actually think that bullying is a normal part of the socialization process. So they approve of it, or they look the other way. They say, well, kids will be kids. And so we need more than simply training. It's like when you have resistant police at a diversity training session at the police academy. You have to make sure that they're not just sitting there folding their arms and waiting for the class to end so they can go back to doing things the normal way. You have to have follow through. It has to be in the appraisals. There has to be consequences and also positive incentives. But it has to be made clear to the teachers and the school principals that this is not a policy that's up to you. And by the council passing an actual law, that will help underscore it, but then there has to be follow through and leadership from the top, and it has to be made clear. This is not an acceptable part of the socialization process. Children should not have to face fist fights and worse just to be able to go through their day. And that is a serious socialization problem among the adults and not just the kids, and that we really have to focus on.
I appreciate that comment. It's a pretty sad commentary to be in a society where people are taking their lives as a result of being bullied, and then you have people who, as you put it, say kids will be kids. That's obviously not being kids being kids.